So in this video, we're going to be doing a tier ranking of my exes and the trauma they left me with. This video may or may not come out to the public. I don't know. This is kind of for myself, but also to serve as a warning to other people and hopefully see the red flags that I didn't, and maybe they won't follow through with someone who doesn't see them, who doesn't value them, who doesn't hear them, and who doesn't hold them. I'm going to put a photo here of the tier ranking. We have Soul Splitter at the top, Mindfuck right under it, Taught Me Something, and then Neutral Ghost. Disclaimer before the video starts: the names of the people on this list and in this video are not going to be named by their real names. I'm giving them fake names to respect their privacy. They know who the fuck they are. We're going to start in order by how they came and how they happened, and then we'll have a final thoughts and where I am today. The final X will be the most recent one, the one that I thought was going to show up when I was in deep Delulu La La Land psychosis, or a spiritual firmware upgrade. Only time can tell. Now, some of these were not boyfriends exactly, but we did things that a boyfriend and a girlfriend should do. These people like to gaslight you into believing that you didn't have a real experience because the other person wasn't 100% there. And sometimes that's what makes it hurt so much more worse. The possibility of what could have been and having to mourn that. So we're going to start all the way back when I was in 10th grade. So I was a sophomore in high school. I had just moved schools. I grew up in one town my whole life and I made friends there. They were all so deeply important to me. I wish I hadn't left. I grew up there. I never wanted to leave my friends, and I wanted to graduate at the high school I started at. I got to go to the high school there for 1 year, and then I was pulled away, and I was really disappointed because I had to go to a school full of people I didn't know, and I would have to graduate with a bunch of people that I, either wouldn't know then or would have to make friends with, and I already didn't feel too confident on making friends. I didn't really realize that I had same-sex attraction until I was in about 8th grade, I think. And one of my male best friends had actually moved in 7th grade. So all of my relationships with men started to disintegrate from that point forward. Because then it really becomes homophobia. And when you reach out to gay men, they're not always the nicest. Some will commodify you, and you're at such a young age. I didn't come out of the closet until my sophomore year. I was actually pulled out of the closet. It was not my choice. But when you are in the closet and you're reaching out for any kind of connection, that leaves you so open and vulnerable to older men. So that was my first experience and continued experiences with men up until last year when all of this happened and I decided to put my goddamn foot down. So I never really got the chance or experience of having a normal, healthy relationship with another man. I moved to this new school during a very fragile period of my life. I got here and I was so resentful towards my parents, rightfully so, and also resentful towards these kids that I don't know because they get to know each other. They don't have to start all over. I had to start all over again. I'm really depressed. And this place is in the middle of buttfuck nowhere. Homophobia and racism were rampant. It's not the place that I want to be out at. It's not the place I even want to be. So I was minding my business. I didn't make a friend. I made one friend the spring the following year that I had moved there, but I had gotten really close to making friends at one point. So around September or August, somebody messaged me on Instagram that goes to school where I had just moved to, saying, "You're cute, blah, blah, blah." And I had never really had an in real life experience with another gay man my age. And he went to my school. How convenient. So we ended up going on a date, but he was not out of the closet. I was forced to be, so I didn't really have a choice. But he was not out of it, which I respected. I was like, whatever, that's cool. We can still like hold hands away from the property, whatever, because he always spoke on coming out like he wanted to. So I was like, okay, do it on your own time. I was told that he told his friends about me, so these people would pay attention to me and acted like my friend. But at some point, he ended up ghosting me. And this was in the fall of my sophomore year, which was horrible and awful, and I spiraled. This was my first experience with a gay man, and he wanted to pretend that I don't exist. And so did his friends. So it was like a double whammy, I had no friends. I wanted friends, and it would have been nice, I kind of saw this, and I wanted to make friends with people. So I was like, oh my God, maybe I finally get to have that. I didn't feel like I fit in anyways, but that just made it so much more worse. And then the following year in February, he reached back out to me. I don't know what he said. I guess he apologized. I don't know. I was young and I was like, okay. So we ended up going out on a Valentine's date. We went to a restaurant and he was on his phone the entire time. I can remember being a little bit irritated because he was so disconnected, and it was still the same, yeah, I'm gonna come out, I want to be with you nonsense. And then he ended up ghosting me anyways. And I'm pretty sure I was supposed to go and have dinner with like his mom and his sister. I don't know. That, or he was supposed to come out to his mom and his sister. I don't remember the exact details, but there was a lot of playing it to be more than it actually was. I don't know all the details. I never got to have an actual conversation with him about what happened and why he did what he did. This was so deeply isolating. I had just moved to a brand new place and I had no friends. And he ghosted me twice. This was my first in real life gay experience with someone my age. I remember right before spring break happened, my parents had taken my phone because that was their favorite side hustle. They wouldn't have been my parents if they weren't taking my phone, I think like I got in an argument with them or something and they took my phone and they saw I was like cussing with my friends. And that was like the end of it. My dad said, "You're not going to have your phone for all of spring break." And my phone was my lifeline. I didn't have friends. My friends were all 2 hours away. So my version of connection was getting on Tumblr, talking to my friends, and listening to one of the things that I've always loved, which is music, and he swiped that away from me. So since I didn't have any friends here, I spent all of spring break in my bedroom. I didn't want to come out of my bedroom because I was so angry. I felt like something had been stolen from me. I used to sit by my speaker and just put CDs in and listen to it, lay on the ground and look up at the wall. And I would spend my whole entire day doing that. I feel like Oral, when he got grounded from going to church, I literally was going crazy. Thankfully, I found an old iPod Classic and loaded up all of my songs from iTunes on there. So whenever I was forced to go out in public, I could still put my headphones in and listen to my favorite song. During this period, I thought to myself, delusionally, derogatory, that people would notice that I was gone. And yes, my best friend of 13 years did recognize I was gone. Love her, and I always will. She knows who the fuck she is. But I thought that Carson would have reached out to me and been like, hey, are you alive? Or anything, you know? Maybe it was me being locked up in a bedroom. Like somehow he would like psychologically know to reach out to me, even though he was ghosting me anyways. Or I thought like maybe I was missing out on my chance to reach back out to him because my father had stolen away my phone. And yeah, if he were to have reached out, then I would have had no way to reach back out to him. But I didn't. I got my phone back and nothing. My friend was there, you know, and she will always be deeply goated for that. But he just left me to rot. When the junior year started, he started dating a girl. And I'm not sure what was going on there because he was still dating her by the time that we all graduated. But it always felt so confusing to me because I just never understood why people cannot just put their big girl pants on and use their words. Because if words would have been used, I wouldn't have spent months and months blaming myself and making up excuses. That is quite possibly the worst way to ever have... This was before situationships. We weren't dating, but we did things that boyfriends and girlfriends do when they're dating, so you basically get the same experience. And that was the worst way to ever have your first with. He was my first kiss, and I wish he wouldn't have been. When they say save your first kiss, they mean it. You don't just give your first kiss away to some John Doe who doesn't know what he wants. Some John Doe who doesn't know how to use his words. Because that is what you deserve. You deserve to have someone who, if they don't like you, if they don't want to talk to you, if they feel unsure, they should be like, hey, I don't think this is going to work out. I don't think I'm capable of doing this. I wish I could hold you in the way that you need to be held, but I don't know how to. You deserve the best, and the best might not be me. So that was my first experience. I had never really dated anybody again for a very long time. I had spoken to some people. I had spoken to one person since then who actually had a very kind heart and the sweetest of intentions, but he lived on the other side of the country, so that just did not work out. And I slowly but surely started to work on getting over it and started focusing on other aspects of my life. There were friends to be made, there were songs to listen to, memories to make, and it took a long time to really get over this. I don't think, because I was heartbroken for a while, but healing is not linear. It takes time. You know, you go through different stages of grief. So I was feeling anger, a lot of anger actually, because it was just so disrespectful up until about senior year. I think that it started to die towards the end of my junior year, and then I only had like blips of it during my senior year, only because I had to see him in the hallways. Like, I'd probably be over if I didn't have to see you. So we would rank him in the mind fuck tier. Because he did fuck with my mind. He didn't know what he wanted, and it ended up hurting me in the end. He didn't know how to use his words, and it ended up hurting me in the end. There are a lot of conditions that we grow up under. I have not had the best childhood, but that has never, ever excused me from treating someone like dirt. Have I been perfect? No. But I don't allow that to allow me to treat people like dirt. I have tried my best. I believe in sacred rage, which is something that I was taught to shut down early into childhood. I couldn't laugh, I couldn't cry, I couldn't be angry. So when something like this happens, I tend to blame myself because what could this other person do? They're perfect in my eyeballs. I have always felt deep remorse for anything that I have done. If I were to hurt a person, when I have hurt a person, I think about it. I will literally play it on loop anytime that I have slipped up. And I've gotten so much better at being a kinder person. And a lot of that did stem from growing up in a household where it was thought to be funny to be mean to people. And I never even liked being mean to people as a child, but sometimes you absorb so much. But I feel like I have always tried, at least I try, and I try to keep that in mind, that we do grow up in conditioned households, but I can never wrap my head around not being able to use your words. Why people cannot apply that same sense of mindfulness towards another human being. If you don't want it done to you, why would you do it to someone else? Anytime that I have felt like I need to cut something off or it's not working out, I do what I would want done to me. Even if it's hard, even if it sucks to come out and be like, because I don't want to hurt this person, I love so many people and I love the humanity of it all that I know what heartbreak feels like. So I will literally write you a whole novel. So I just can't wrap my head around being incapable of writing 2 or 3 sentences. So he would definitely be in the mind fuck tier. He fucked with my mind. He fucked with my first impression. All I knew before that was heartbreak and sexual abuse. And that was only the beginning. So yes, Carson goes in the mind fuck tier because he absolutely fucked with my mind. That was horrible. That was a terrible experience. I would wish it on nobody. What I would like to pass on to anybody else is to never date somebody that is in the closet. Never date somebody who was unsure. If they ghost you the first time, don't fucking talk to them again if they reach back out to you. If you do it for your own closure. Don't open up your heart back up again, because I had to spiral 2 times, unfortunately, because I was willing to take it because it was the only thing readily available and visible to my eyeballs. Do not date a man who's in the closet. They don't know what the fuck they want. They don't know what they're doing. They will do anything. They will throw you under the bus to make sure that their skin is protected. It doesn't matter. Your heart is not important to them. Don't believe anything that they say. That's more specifically to people of the same sex attraction, but I feel like it is very important and serious. No matter how old you get, you should never, ever, ever give your heart to someone who is in the closet. They are quite literally dangerous, especially the sexually active ones. I have never, ever given my heart to anybody who's in the closet since then. So it took me a couple of years. I feel like I have always had really high standards, even when I didn't know that another boundary needed to be set. I feel like I have always had really high standards because I deserve to get what I want. I believe anybody deserves to get what they want. And we learned through this that sometimes what we want is not actually what we think we want that's in front of us. Because when time passes, we get to look back on hindsight and we get to be like, thank God that didn't happen.
So are you definitely, positively sure?
Get out!
But are you...
Get out!
Last chance to change your mind, Squidward.
Take it, SpongeBob. Take it, please. And promise me, no matter how much I may beg and plead and cry, don't give that paper back to me. Ever.
So I take that as a possible no? Squidward? Squidward? Squidward?
Thank fuck that didn't happen. So that was in the fall of 2014 and the spring of 2015. And it wasn't until 3 years later in 2018 until I met someone on Tinder. I had always been trying to give people a chance, but nobody really stuck until I met someone who was really kind. We'll call him Brett. He had a fun personality and he seemed really caring, and he seemed to really admire me and my interests and what I thought to be holding it with care. He was like the perfect idea of a boyfriend in my head at the time. I think he even had a Nintendo Switch, which is something important to me. I love shared interests and experiences. I love that little invisible string theory. I mean, I didn't really feel it with him at the time, but we'll get into that. So this is when I had gotten into Aisha Erotica. I think it was July. We started talking, maybe August. And then we started dating sometime, probably in August. I think we met in July. I don't remember completely. I'd been listening to Kim Petras back in August 2017. Slater came in somewhere, and then I started listening to Aisha Erotica in July of 2018. This is how I fucking remember things. But it was different because it was something shifted. I had never listened to artists like that before, so I felt like a shift in the air. And this dude comes along, and he's really cool. He's really fun. He's got a bubbly personality, and I'm fucking with him, The makeout sessions were heavy, and the connection seemed intimate. But I was a party girl, I've been listening to Charlie XCX since 2014. She was supposed to release XCX World in 2017, which was supposed to be like a party album. So you already know I'm fucking with like, let's go get drunk and get high. And I was already feeling that way when I was in elementary school listening to Blah 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 by Kesha, or like Party at a Rich Dude's House. I grew up, and a lot of us grew up in a very like party-centric, heavy culture. If you grew up during the 2010s, like 2009 to 2012. I was in 5th grade when TikTok came out. So I wanted to go party with the girls. I would tell him, I'd be like, haha, I went out with the girls. I got drunk and I smoked some weed. And he did not like that. So he ended up being like, I can't watch you do this, blah, blah, blah. It's over. And I was brokenhearted. We literally bought hoodies together and traded them so we could have each other's smell. And he was the first real boyfriend, in a sense. So I was definitely pretty brokenhearted. I think he met my parents. So there was already this idea of a future with him. And he broke up with me for going out and having fun, like any person who is 18, 19 years old. I think I was actually 18. And I never really got to experience getting drunk or high until I was 17 years old. And a lot of kids start, and I'm not saying that's admirable, but, and it's definitely not their fault, but a lot of kids start a lot younger. So I felt like I came in a little bit later, so I still had to get it out of my system. And so it annoyed me. It broke my heart, but then it kind of started to annoy me. And then he reached out to me. I think I'm not sure what the exact words were. Obviously, it's been some time. I've been through a lot, so my memory is not 100% there. But he admitted that he was being too hard on me in verbatim. So we started it up again. And I'm like, okay, I can fuck with this. I was just brokenhearted. Let's continue this, like nothing's wrong. And this was all still in 2018, like the end of the year. And so at that time, I think I got on Tinder, because when you don't know what to do, when you get broken up with, and you've got that mindset of like, I've got to be in a relationship. And when you grow up in a household where you don't really know what like healthy is, then that's what you do. So I got on Tinder. It didn't mean I was necessarily looking for a boyfriend, maybe just someone to talk to, but I met someone on there who was a really fun person. I liked their personality. I thought they were cool in like a friendship sense, but they messaged me on Discord with a picture of Brett on Tinder. That was my final straw. I said, you know what? I can't do this. I don't fuck with that. So I was the one to break up with him the following time. And I was pretty heartbroken, but that like heartbrokenness, that ache did not last for too long. I think I was heartbroken over what I wanted it to be, who I thought he was. But then I realized, if you're on Tinder while you're talking to me, fuck you. Like, why am I upset with myself for somebody who doesn't realize what they have right in front of them? What is not good about me, If you don't want to be in a relationship with someone, you need to use your words. It's giving little pussy bitch energy, because instead of using your words, you go to an app to find someone else while you're still pursuing this other person. I don't understand it. I can't wrap my head around it. So I broke up with him. I was heartbroken, but it translated into anger very quickly, rightfully so. And that was the end of that. He even messaged me like a couple of months later being like, I smoke weed now. Okay. And I everybody that seems to have an issue with me smoking, which I'm giving up like right now, and I've made such great progress, but I smoked for years. And anytime anybody had an issue with me smoking and just had the audacity to mention something, they always ended up smoking right after me. And I just think that's so weird. They love to make up problems about you. If anybody ever cheats on you, that is 100% on them. That's not a you issue to fix. And that says everything about them more than it will ever say about you. So we're gonna put him in the taught me something tier. Because that heartbreak really did not fuck with my head. He ended up, I don't know how long it was after, maybe a year or two, but he ended up sending me a big long message how he regrets it. And I just have kept my foot down the whole entire time. Once a cheater, always a cheater. I will always believe that. I don't care what they say. If they did it one time, they're absolutely going to do it again. If they never saw the value in you the first time, they're not going to see it the second time around. Once you have cheated, you have disrespected me, and I can't trust you. How do I know that we're going to be a thing, and and you're not going to go out and fuck someone else and come back to me? I don't know whose boo-boo hole you've been in, and vice versa. That's dangerous. And for me, his capabilities were so deeply clear to me that it really didn't fuck with my head, and I just learned something from it. And it hurt. It definitely hurt, but it was something to learn from. So now, this is where it gets really fun. At least interesting. It gets very interesting. So after the breakup with Brett, a couple of months had passed. You know, I cried a little bit, and then I got really angry because that I know that I deserve better, and someone that cheats on me absolutely does not deserve me at my best, or at least even crying. They don't deserve all that energy. So I, like anyone who has had to beg and claw for love for a lot of their life, I was immediately back on Tinder looking for somebody to fill that deep, gaping hole. And I felt like, you know, in April, I talked to someone who was really cool, but they were very incapable of being able to hold me. And so around June, I ended up meeting someone on Tinder who I had matched with before, but we never spoke. But this time he reached out to me, and I was really attracted to this dude. He was really attractive. He seemed to really be interested in who I am. And so we ended up meeting, I think, around the end of June, maybe sometime into July. Maybe it was after the 4th of July, because there were fireworks when we hung out. So I decided to go out with this dude. This is 2019 at this point. We're going to call him Chase. The first time I hung out with him, I was really afraid. I think a lot of my life I have had to face a lot of standards from society when it comes to your body and what it looks like, especially with gay men. You know, if you think that, like, it's not hard for a gay man, it's very different. You have to fit a certain perfect image. You know, you not only have this, like, if I'm overweight, you know, which to other people, they see that as something that's, you know, wrong. I don't believe that, but, you know, you have that side of the spectrum, and then you also have being way too skinny on the other side of the spectrum. I've always been picked on ever since I was growing up for being too small, for looking like a stick, and it's just stuck with me. And it didn't even help when I realized that I do experience same-sex attraction. And this dude is like perfect archetype. So I was very nervous, but I said, fuck it. I know what I'm worth. I'm gonna go out and hang out with this dude anyways. And it was really cool. I drove out to where a college campus is, where there are more people out, because I live in the middle of buttfuck nowhere. And he seemed really down to earth, like had a cool personality, seemed very emotionally intelligent. And I remember we ended up going on a walk. I don't remember what we did beforehand. I think we just like met and talked a little bit. But we went on a walk, and he took me to like this secret garden where, because, you know, it's in the city and a lot of it is like a concrete jungle. So he took me to where there's like grass and flowers and trees. And he made me this little, I think it was like a flower bracelet. Like it was a bracelet out of flowers. And, you know, he just talked to me, and it was the sweetest that any guy had ever treated me. I think maybe it was this time or the second time that we met, he had me take off my shirt. I don't remember what for, but, you know, he was talking to me. He was like, do you feel insecure about your body? And I was like, yeah. And he was like, well, there's nothing to be insecure about. You're beautiful. And I'm like, oh, okay, that's really nice, you know? So I was like head over heels for this dude. I thought he was really cool. You know, he talked to me about how he had gone to a tree to like cry to it, you know, a couple of days prior. Like, he's so emotionally there. And we did continue to hang out a couple of times. It was very heated interactions in like a good way, very like hot and sweaty, if that makes sense, you know. And we ended up sleeping together a couple of times. And, you know, in my mind at the time, I'm like, this is fine, this is fun, this is what I think love is, so I'm down with it, you know. He gave me a key at some point, and I think it said home or something on it, and I was like, damn, this is gonna be serious. And it was nice. At least it seemed like it. But he had a friend, someone that I actually knew from high school, which was really embarrassing to see because I got a weird little ick from him when I was in high school in like a homosexual way, which was interesting, especially to run back into him again. I'm like, hello? Who are you? What are you doing? I don't ever want to see anybody that I saw in high school ever again. So we would go to like these parties and stuff, and this dude, Chase, would like cry in my lap about how this other dude doesn't like him. He would literally be sobbing in my lap talking about it, and I would like rub his head, and for some reason in my mind that was okay, that he was clearly visibly like distressed over some other dude who does not like him. And actually I do remember I think it may have been the first day that we met, I wanted to be clear about intentions, and I said, I don't want to be on Tinder. And he was like, look, and he like whipped his phone out and he deleted Tinder off his phone right in front of me. And I'm like, okay, cool. So he's literally sobbing in my lap about some other dude, and it's just not clicking with me. I don't know what's going on. I don't know what the thought process behind me allowing that was. Maybe I thought that like it was something else. Maybe I thought that it wasn't true and I didn't want to believe it, because we had shared a lot of intimacy together. Probably more intimacy than I actually really consented to, because those nights were not easy nights to fall asleep to. I felt like I was performing the whole entire time. I could not sleep. I felt so nervous. I didn't feel safe in his bed. Hours would go by and I would still be awake in his bed. I just felt so uncomfortable. And during this time period, any time that I wasn't there with him, getting messages from him were minimal to none. Minimal was the max that I was gonna get. It was usually like bare minimum interactions, and it was horrible. It made me, but I reasoned with it. I was like, oh, he has a life, blah, 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 which is interesting because I have to do things all the time. I literally have to stay busy all the time, whether I want to or whether it's against my will. I still find the time. I make the time to respond to people. I know absolutely what it's like to not get a response from a person. I know what it's like to be on the other side. That video of the woman at Walmart.
I just answered the phone because there's like nobody here. No, I don't work here, but the phone's ringing and ringing, and I know how it feels to be on that other end and nobody answers. But I will. No, I'm just a customer looking for somebody to help me. Actually, if you need help, I'm looking for a bell to ring over here. I can't even find a bell. Yeah, but we're still waiting for somebody. You want to hang up and try back in a little while? All right. You're welcome. Have a good night. Bye.
And that should have been a red flag to me then, where these close to none responses, this like really hot and heavy interactions when we're together, like, yeah, let's make out and go out and do boyfriend and girlfriend stuff. But once you're gone, I want to pretend like you don't even exist. So I think it was into August. He wanted me to come to his art show, but it was like 9 hours away. Being the hopeless romantic that I am, I'm like, yeah, I want to come and support you. So I got in my car with one of his friends, and I drove 9 hours away. And I was on and off my medication. So I was manic. I didn't have any sleep. And I was also smoking weed with this girl that I literally just met in his car. So I was literally like tweaking out the whole entire time. And we got there and I was having the worst mood shift ever. My stomach was hurting. It was the 3 Ds: distress, diarrhea, and depression. There was a lot going on, and I had to show up to this event with like his family and his friends, and I was so tired. I was exhausted. I felt like he wasn't even paying attention to me. Like, I felt like I wasn't important until we were out in front of people, and he like grabs me and makes out with me while all his friends are there. And I'm like, what are you doing right now? I feel like I don't get this much intimacy with you, even behind closed doors. And you have been tossing me around like a salad. I am not some fantasy to be lived out. And then we were told that we have to be back by the next day because his friend needs to go back to work or something. I don't remember. So we drove 9 hours to get there. And then we had to drive 9 hours back in the same day, in the same time frame. It was literally so late at night. I don't think I got home until like 3 or 4 a.m. in the morning. And it was a lot. And he really didn't speak to me after that. He kind of did, but it was very minimal. I remember he kind of disappeared. He went to like a music festival or something. I think he did like mushrooms or acid. And he was talking to me about all this like people in your life, blah, 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 like performative depth. And I'm like, okay, well, you've been leaving me on red for these past couple days, and I'm not even messaging you as much as, you know, like, no amount of messages to me is ever gonna throw me off personally. And I was still shrinking myself. I was still holding back, you know. I wasn't even like constantly sending messages, you know. I was like, hello, you know, literally the bare minimum, because when you've never met it before, you'll take it for what it is. So he got back and he sent me that nonsensical message, just performing depth, and we ended up going out and having like a dinner together. We had curry at some East Asian restaurant, and he was just so mad like the entire time. And I was trying to like have a conversation with him about it. He was talking about something else, and I'm trying to talk to him about it. And he's like, no, you don't get it. Because I said, I get it. And he was like, no, you don't get it. And I'm like, how can you tell me what I do and do not get? You don't know my life experiences. And you also don't know how capable I am of putting myself into somebody else's shoes, even if I hadn't have had that experience. So it was just disrespect. He was gaslighting me, and it was just awful. Like, I think I went back in the same night because I was like, fuck you. And it was just ass, you know? And then at some point, maybe like a week or two later, maybe I confronted him or something, and he was like, I want to see you again so I could talk to you. And I'm like, well, fuck, you know. I didn't know what this would entail. So I went over, and, you know, we sat in front of his like apartment, whatever. And he had this talk with me that was so, whenever you want a conversation with someone, especially breaking up, you don't want something that beats around the bush. And that's all he did. He just beat around the bush. He didn't say it directly, but he said it in a way that absolves him from any sort of additional questioning, any additional explanation. And I left feeling emptier than I would have if he had just been honest. You don't have to say, I just need a break. We'll talk more because I want to see you again. Could you just be honest and be like, this isn't working out? So then he stopped talking to me. At the same time that happened, I think it was like August 31st actually, because I had three of my friends, three or four or five that I met at a previous job, all decided to stop talking to me because I talk about drugs and cock and balls too much, allegedly, which is just not true. I'm sorry, but being like, I would love to do ecstasy in a club is not earth shattering. And they held that up against me, you know? I think they were being hard on me. And one of them, a twink, I had an ick about all the way back in February because he would say very weird things to me. Like, I'm better than you. And I asked my friend, I said, do you think that's weird? And she said, no, he's just playing around. I don't think he was playing around because he literally went behind my back and dragged my name through the dirt when I had nothing but pure intentions and love for these people. I thought these people were my soul family. I wasn't trying to like make anybody uncomfortable. I wasn't trying to disrespect anybody. I thought these were my honest to God best friends. You know, I can literally remember sitting by him and being like, I'm so grateful for this person, only to find out that he went behind my back. I was friends with this one girl that I met in 2018, actually, during Brett era, and I liked her a lot, but I felt like a token gay friend to her. I felt like I would talk to her, but she wouldn't listen to me. I would talk, and she would just continue talking about herself. I would look in the window of the car, see my reflection, and I felt like I was in a TV show where you look at the camera because this is insane. So I would voice that complaint to this twink. And after a while, I don't know, maybe like 1 month of very validly being upset, I decided to stop because I said, you know what? I don't care. I'm not trying to like talk about this girl. She doesn't have evil intentions. She just wants the best for those around her, and I love her for that. And I always will. But he took that month and probably 2 or 3 extra months to continue talking about it so he could indulge in it. And anytime he did it, I would try to change the subject. I did not want to keep talking about it. I didn't care. I like this girl more than my own personal dissatisfaction with the relationship. And he took that information and he told her that I was talking about her like horrible, which was never true. That was, and she ended up like hating me for it. And it was crazy. I could not wrap my head around it. I could not wrap my head around the one girl that I was friends with before I started working there, who me and her made friends with all these people. I just couldn't wrap my head around how she could take his side and not see the truth behind it all, because that is not somebody that is a friend to anybody. You never ever tell anybody that you are better than them. You never drag their name through the dirt as like a little key or a laugh. It's not cool. That's not what friendship is. If he is willing to throw my name under the bus over something that's not even true, then who is he to not do it to you? What makes you think you are exempt? So I never understood that. So, you know, obviously that was earth shattering to me because I thought that they were my soul family. I thought that they were my best friends. So that also happened on August 31st. And my friend of 13 years also cut me off on August 31st. It was a long day. I had no idea what happened with her. I had my suspicions that I thought it had something to do with maybe someone she's talking with. But I don't chase straight men. We've already learned our lesson. Do you guys remember? That's not our brand. I think it was late 2020 that she reached out to me apologizing, and she told me exactly what my suspicions were. She thought I was talking to some dude that I want nothing to do with. I had to laugh because my intuition, but also at the same time, I'm like, girl, who do you think I am? Why would I do that? First of all, straight men is a big no. Second of all, if that's someone that you're interested in, like, if I was a girl, I still wouldn't go for your man because you are my friend. You're my bestie. That's not something that I do. Those are not the foot tracks that I follow in. So she stopped talking to me. I literally was talking to nobody in the span of one day. I had one friend left who stayed for so long, and I'll always love her and her mom to this day. So I ended up messaging Chase after a while, being like, hey, are we ever gonna see each other again? Like, I don't have any friends left, and I just wish that I had somebody to talk to. And he just left me on red. Do you know how crazy that makes a person feel? Obviously, our little get together for you to get off your chest what would make you feel better did not clarify enough for me, which is just, I can't, all of that depth was performance. There was no actual emotional depth there. No emotionally capable person would ever toss around somebody like a salad. No emotionally capable person would ever have that conversation with someone and didn't leave somebody with closure. If you were emotionally capable, you would have done it for the sake of the other person, not to make yourself feel better. I don't know about other people, but telling people exactly what they need to hear, especially from me, if they are in my position in that instance, I will tell them everything that I wanted to hear. And that's just the truth. This isn't going to work out. I love you, but this isn't the right fit. But also with heart and love, like letting them know to never give up, to keep going, and that they are worth loving. Anybody who is out there would be so lucky to be with you. Why don't fucking talk to me about crying to a tree when you can't even do the bare minimum? You have about as much emotional depth as a fucking napkin. If you knew anything about emotional depth, then you wouldn't have tossed me around like a goddamn salad. Like, you would have seen that there was a child in me. I literally brought my Switch over from my home to play Mario Maker in front of you. How could you not see a child who loves the motherfucking best plumber in the world and be like, I'm gonna toss him around like a salad. He's nothing more than a human fleshlight, a piece of meat. It was so dangerously disconnected, and I spent months trying to figure out what I had done wrong, what I was doing wrong. I used to sit in my shower, waiting for the light to flicker because I wanted him to come back. I wanted him to come back in the correct form, the kind that would be mindful and the kind that would actually want to speak to me. But you should never have to beg for love. That is also a red flag. There are multiple red flags throughout this whole entire experience. Around the beginning of 2019, I really realized that my private Instagram and my friend of 13 years, her private Instagram, were really funny. I used to literally actively look on her profile because I just thought she was so fucking hilarious. I wanted to see what she was posting. And I thought to myself, oh my God, This is so, you could literally post this on your main and it would be so goated. It's just so good. And I thought it about my page and her page too. And I have always been against the status quo. I've just always wanted to do something different. So at the beginning of 2019, I changed it up from your normal Instagram page where it's just pictures of you and your friends, like I'm bored, and started posting things that I actually care about, like editing my photos. Like if it is a picture of me, it's going to be a picture of me in front of a screen cap from Yoshi's Story 64. But also other things like memes, or like a screenshot from Sonic Adventure in Station Square when Sonic is speaking to one of the NPCs and she's like, man, this place is bigger than I thought. I wanted to see something different and something a little bit more colorful. I wanted to be taken back to the MySpace days when Beyonce was posting inspirational quotes in bags of Cheetos. So around the end of 2019, when this happened, my page started to get a little bit darker. You know, she was brokenhearted. She was a little upset, but she was trying to like keep the momentum going. And I felt like that just added to the factor of like them, like Chase and his friends viewing me as crazy, when in reality it's just sacred processing and rage. I had every right to be angry, but that anger did not come immediately. I don't think it came until like January. I was very depressed all the way from August to January. I think in January I started to get really angry. I was like, fuck you, I can't believe you treated me like this. I had one of his friends message me, like she messaged me, and she was like, when are you gonna quit? And I'm like, fuck you. You don't get to tell me when to quit being upset over this. Did you know that healing is not linear? And also, did he tell you that he was tossing me around like a fucking salad? Did you know that I'm more than that? So I got angry and I soft blocked all of them, because they're all dicks and assholes and I don't want them to be following me. You know, I had a dream sometime after it happened in August where I was with him in a big house traveling with all of his friends, and I was miserable the whole entire time. Like it wasn't a life that I wanted. So I took that as a sign that it wasn't meant to be. I don't know if I said this, but so Chase gets put in the mindfuck category. That one fucked with my mind a lot. It fucked with my mentality, and we'll talk about the effects of how what he did to me actually affected me psychologically, and how it ended up playing out in ways that I didn't even realize until this past year, which makes it even more of a mind fuck. So this was 2020, you know, I felt like I was putting my foot down, and, you know, at the time, you know, I really just couldn't deal, I guess, with being alone. I don't think it's wrong to want to share a space with somebody. I don't think that love is wrong in any way, shape, or form. I think when it's healthy, it's correct. I think it's so deeply human to crave a kind of closeness and being witnessed and connection and getting to witness and share something with somebody else, wanting to grow with somebody else. And I was really looking for that. I was looking for, you know, honesty. I was looking for depth and vulnerability. I felt like Chase was so cryptic with everything, you know. He told me he would cry at a tree, or we had that argument at the restaurant eating curry, and he just wouldn't talk about what it was. He would like share it in code, and it like felt so insulting and frustrating that you wouldn't just tell me what it is that you're allegedly spiraling about. I'm not just some dumb fuck who can't experience sympathy for another person, you know? I wanted something soft. I wanted something where I felt like I could be myself, because I didn't really feel like I could be myself around Chase. I feel like I had to contort myself to a certain shape in order to be loved. And in hindsight, that was very true. I felt like I needed to be a different person, because when I was myself, when I was being honest and vulnerable, it was too much. And that's absolutely the last thing you need in any, partner or friendship. You have never ever been too much for anybody. There is nothing wrong with you for feeling the way that you do, whether you're happy, sad, or angry, or confused. There is nothing wrong with you. If you want a relationship, if you want a friendship, there's nothing wrong with you. If you're in an abusive relationship, somebody that shows you again and again and again that they clearly don't like you and you don't want to be in it anymore and you're scared of hurting their feelings, there's nothing wrong with you. Please don't succumb yourself to something so awful just because it looks good on paper. So around March of 2020, this was, sometime after I blocked him and all his friends. I was on Grindr of all places, which is not going to be the last time you hear of that, looking for something more. And I saw somebody on there that I think I actually had seen them on there previously before, but it wasn't until now that I really saw something in them. And I was like, oh, you look soft. You look nice. You look like somebody who could hold my heart. And I reached out to them and we started talking and we kind of hit it off, but it was really hot and heavy, kind of like Chase. I was really adamant, on meeting this person and being boyfriend, girlfriend with this person. I was extremely impatient, I will say that. And this was during quarantine. This was when the whole world had gone to shit. I was at home getting drunk off of alcohol that was already in the house. So it wasn't even alcohol I wanted to drink. I was drinking fucking moonshine, having the worst time of my life. I didn't have any weed. So I was begging my parents. I said, please just give me $10. And they're like, no, I'm getting drunk every night. I don't want to do this, because I've always been mentally ill. And so that, for a long time, was a form of self-medication. And if I'm going to self-medicate, I would rather it be weed any day over alcohol. It literally got to a point I had a mental breakdown in my room. I don't even remember what it was over, but I ended up cracking my phone on my forehead. I was I don't know what happened. I was sad and angry, and I just banged my phone on my forehead and it ended up cracking. There's a video of me crying and you can see shards of glass in my hair, just to paint a picture. But quarantine was happening, so there was this wall in front of us where we couldn't meet each other, but we're we want to meet, And I obviously wanted more than just sex. I feel like I kind of knew anyways, in a sense, that, because I didn't fully understand it until this past year or so, how deeply sacred it is to protect your body. But I knew at the time, at least enough, that I didn't want sex to be the main focus. I have met dudes before where, just online, where all they wanted was sex, and it was heartbreaking to me. And that's what ended up happening with Chase, just because he has a pretty face and he'll say really nice things, but it's just to get in your bed, So around the end of April, my family came to visit from really far away, and they rented a cabin for the weekend. So I went to that. We all got drunk for the whole weekend and it was really fun. I think we had done it previously and I just really enjoyed it. You know, I got to go be in a different place instead of my stupid fucking bedroom. I got to get drunk with people around and places to go, and there's like a river behind us, so I got the room at the bottom of the cabin all to myself that had like a sliding door, so in the morning I could go out and hit my gravity bong right next to the water. It was so euphoric. I love that kind of environment. But I invited this dude, we'll call him Brantley, over to the cabin because we hadn't met yet, and he was like, okay, but what about your family? And I said, I don't give a fuck, you know, just come on over. And so he did end up coming over. That was the first time we met, and he met my family. I brought him into the cabin, and I'm like, hey guys, this is my boyfriend. And I really hadn't like properly come out to everybody, but I was just like, fuck it, I don't fucking care, I'm trying to like see my boyfriend. So he came over and we had a really good time. We got to hang out. That was our first time hanging out together. We listened to fucking Nicki Minaj together. He showed me his favorite songs. I think he played High School and like rapped it all, and I chose Hell Yeah, both from the Roman Reloaded Re-Up EP, and it was cute. It was really fun. You know, I had a little bunk bed in my bedroom, and so we slept on the top bunk. We could wake up and hear everybody walking around, but it was just us two together. And he didn't really want to have sex either because I didn't want it and he didn't want it, like his own decision. So that was like a green flag to me. So we just made out and enjoyed each other's company. But before we made out, actually, I remember we went outside. We were both drunk, and because I think he wanted a cigarette, and I fuck with the cigarette, you know? And so we went outside, and he was smoking a cigarette, and I'm like, damn, you smell good. I love the smell of, like, cigarette on a man. I know that sounds, like, some people, that's such a turnoff, but I grew up on Marina and the Diamonds, Lana Del Rey, Lorde, Charlie XCX, Sky Ferreira, black and white Tumblr, so it's just been ingrained in my brain at this point. And I can't remember exactly how it went down. I think he actually asked to kiss me, and I was like, holy fuck, this is so, like, this is a little romantic right now. I don't care about anything else. And we made out, and it was just, it was so intimate. And it was so nice. I enjoyed it so deeply. I just remembered something. It was a good time. And, you know, the next day came. I don't know how long he stayed because it was only a weekend. And he came towards the end. So he ended up leaving. We had a really good time, and we continued to still talk. I think we decided to actually date the night that he came, or maybe the night after, and it was really good. But sometimes I felt like it was hard to get a hold of him. He was with his mom a lot. His parents were divorced, I think, and so he would go to visit his mom because he didn't live with her, and he would be talking to her, and I took that as he doesn't like me, which is my own issue. And so I would feel a lot of disconnect there. But he did end up coming over to my house at one point, and he spent the night, and we got to like spend the whole day together. We went to like a park, and at one point he lent me his jacket. So I got to have that. I thought that was really cute. If there's one thing about me, it's like sharing things. I believe that sharing is caring. You know, with 2019 Brett, we bought hoodies together, wore them, and then switched them. So I was really fucking with it, you know? And it wasn't until the third time that... Actually, let's back it up. So I was supposed to... After he left the second time, when he came to visit me at my house, which was fun, you know? And some things actually did happen, which is interesting to think about. I'm not saying anyone is at fault, but I just, like, remembered that, you know? I thought that nothing happened, but then I just remembered that something did happen. It's crazy how our brains work. So we were supposed to meet again. I was gonna go meet him where he lives, see where he works, and go out to the lake swimming with his friends. Well, I had just reconnected with one of my old friends from high school, this really cool girl that I love still today. And I always kind of admired and looked up to her. You know, I met her. I was just eating in a restaurant one night with my friend that I had just met from Grindr again, but he was really cool. We actually never did anything. It was just like two girls having a good time. You know, I'd get in his car, I'd bring the gravity bong, and I'm like, let's hit this and drive, you know, and like just do things, listen to music and have a good time. And I would bring him and he would meet my friends. But so we were just eating together and this girl walks into the restaurant. I didn't even see her, you know, I'm talking to my friend. And I hear somebody scream my name and she runs up to me. I'm like, what the fuck is going on right now? She came up to me and I was so nervous. I was like, I'm a little scared right now. I'm literally, I am high as fuck. Please don't scream at me. So I was shaking a little bit. She was like, give me your Snapchat. And I'm like, okay. So I reconnected with her. We got to hang out a lot. It was really fun. And the year prior, you know, I got into Ayesha Erotica in 2018. And I was really like, oh, I'm a coke whore now. And so it was just crazy because my friend, she was like, when I went to go hang out with her, she's like, do you want to do some coke? So I was like, you already know. So I got to try a lot of new things with her and I got to go out and do a lot of things with her. She's so real and so down to earth and really does have your best interest in heart. So if I was going to do any kind of harder drug, you know, than weed and alcohol, then I am so grateful to have done it with her because I have always been a girl's girl. I believe in the power of friendship, and she is somebody who cares and knows the good and the safe stuff. So I was safe in her presence. You know, she would always warn me. She's like, just little tips. You know, I remember one was like, don't use the same nostril over and over. I completely forgot that because I think I developed, I literally used the same nostril and I think I developed a little tiny hole in the side of my right nose. And I didn't realize that until like months after being friends. And I told her, I said, I think I've been using the same nostril this whole time because I have felt a little hole there. So I started to switch. So she would look out for you. And she was that kind of friend. And she just felt so safe. And I am so grateful for her today. And she wasn't like most people, you know. It wasn't cold. It wasn't performative. It was down to earth. I got to be real with her. We got to have long conversations. I would bring her to work with me because I was the only one there. And we would just hang out all night and talk about stupid shit like astrology or aliens or, I don't know, just theories and shows we love like American Horror Story. And it was a blast. Like if I were to be doing anything like that, I was so happy. I am so happy to have done it with her and not just some rando that I don't really trust, you know? So I went to go hang out with her. I don't remember the exact events of the night. Actually, I do. So we decided to go swimming. We wanted to go swim. So we went to this kind of like park that had water around us and, you know, have a good time. You know, we got some alcohol and we just wanted to drink by the water. And we ended up meeting these girls and my friend was like, let's go talk to them, you know, because they had alcohol too. And that's not something that I would usually do by myself. But I was like, you know what? Let's do it because I trust you. I like you. I like your vibe. I love it when people push you out of your comfort zone. So I was down with it. So we ended up becoming friends with these other girls and we all went out that night. We all went to a bar. It was crazy. I was so fucked up. I accidentally like knocked a drink over, and some dude got so pissed at me. And then I got really pissed back, but my friend, she was like, we gotta go. And we were leaving, and I was just like raging down the street. I'm like, fuck you. It was an accident. I don't know why you're getting so heated over this little twink right now, because what the fuck? Why? Why me? Stop it. You are a grown adult. I'm just out here with like a flower in my hair, just trying to have a good time with the girls. So we did that, and then we went back to my friend's house, and like all of us, and we all hung out, and we snorted some cocaine, and we listened to Lady Gaga. It was a great time, but I ended up getting home, and I wanted to talk to Brantley. I was like, let's call. I want to tell you about my night. It was like 7, 8 a.m. And he's like, I don't want to talk on the phone right now. And it like pissed me off so bad. I'm like, why don't you want to talk? Because in my head, I'm like, why can't we just call each other? So we kind of got into it there. And he did have some stuff going on that he kind of told me about back in March, like trust issues and stuff, and other things that he also wouldn't speak about. Just like Chase, you know, speaking in codes. And that is just like infuriating to me. I'm like, what is so awful that you cannot talk to me about? I am like your own personal diary, your own personal little locked diary. I will not say anything. If anything, I'm just here to be supportive. I just want to be your friend. I just want to be here in any way possible. So it feels so insulting to me when people speak in codes and they don't, and they're just not honest with you. I think that's the worst part, is because I have such pure intentions. I would never say anything to intentionally bring you down. I literally just want to be there for you. And he wouldn't talk to me about these things. So, you know, he wouldn't even talk to me on the phone. And I'm like, you're pissing me off. I just want to like talk to you. And I don't know what happened. From there, I think we just dropped it. Obviously, that was some time ago, literally like 5 years. And so the time came for me to go hang out with him and meet his friends and swim at this lake. And the day of, it took him so long to respond to me. And I made my day free. I was prepared to go swimming. I was excited to go swimming. And it just took him forever, you know, very slow responses, very, very flighty responses, just not being 100% present. But he finally got back to me, and I was like, finally, oh my God. And I drove there, and I was pissed. My feelings were hurt. And I said that to him. That was like one of the first things I said. I was like, why are you not like, why did you take so long? I'm like kind of angry right now. So my mood was already ruined. We went to meet his friends, and I'm like, the whole time, because I'm so annoyed. I'm like, my energy to do all of this and bring my best self has left the building, because you were not being present enough for me, and it just put me in a bad mood. I had an awful time. I don't remember exactly everything that went down, but it was not good. We'll just say that. I remember I got out of the water. I was cold. I was upset. One of his friends said something to me, and I didn't respond. I was just like, I'm cold right now. I'm not happy. Like, I'm sorry. I'm sure you're a really cool person, but I'm in such a bad mood. And I expressed that to him. And, you know, before I left, we ended up kissing. And I kissed him really hard because something in me knew. I was like, this might be the last time that this happens. So I did get home, you know, time passed, and Obviously, he was terrible at responding, and I don't fuck with that. Like, you could take your time responding, but the responses being like 2 sentences and not present is just, it's just an insult. So by June, I, kind of realized how downhill this was going. And he even at one point wanted to start exchanging nudes. And I was like, this is horrible. This is awful. I don't want to do this. And I asked him one night, I was in my detached garage. I was hitting my gravity bong. And it was kind of like a haha moment because I wanted him to step up. I'm like, come on, this is serious. Like, don't fuck with me, Like, I deserve the best. Obviously, you do too, but like, I am a little goated, I'm not a little goated. I am goated. So I was just like joking around. I was just dicking around. I was like, do you even want to be dating anymore? Like, haha. And he was like, no. That's not what you were supposed to say. It was literally, I just wanted you to step up your game. And he was like, no, I don't want to date anymore. And it hit me like a semi-truck. I started like arguing. I was like, what? Like, why? What is going on? And he was just so adamant on it. And he was like, no, this just can't happen. And I still don't, I don't even think he really went in depth with the why, which is probably the most torturous part of anybody that is so disconnected and coded to speak in secrets, because then it's your job, without your consent, to give yourself the closure. So he said that, and I was hitting my gravity bong, and I started sobbing. This was not like 2019 again, but 2019, man. But worse, I was sobbing. I had to cover my face, and I was screaming. This wasn't like any sob. I was literally sobbing because it happened again. I was so heartbroken because I did not want it to end like this. It had only been around a month, only just like a little bit over a month, and I was so heartbroken. I was sobbing. And from that point, I even told him, I said, I probably won't date anybody until I'm 29. And I was 21. So that's a long ass time to cut off love. And that's how serious I was, because I wanted something that lasts. I've never ever had something that has lasted over a month. And that's when I decided, I was like, you know what? I don't want to do love anymore. I'm sick of it. I'm sick of having my heart broken by emotionally disconnected men who actually aren't interested in growing together. That was one thing I said to him, because, when you're speaking in codes, that does not tell me that you are interested in growing together. Growing together, that being a priority of the type of friendship or relationship that I look for is so deeply important. How do you expect something to last if you can't be honest and vulnerable with somebody? If you're having problems and I'm having problems, I want to be able to talk to you about it. I just want somebody to hear me. You don't have to fix it. I just want somebody to hear me and be like, I'm sorry. It's gonna be okay. Just go to bed. Tomorrow will be a new day. I'm not asking for the whole fix. I'm not asking for anybody to fix me. I just want somebody to be kind and listen and hear what I have to say and express either sympathy or empathy. Somebody to see the human in me and say, I'm sorry you had to go through that. Someone who sees the human in me and wants to hold it, as I've always wanted to do for absolutely anybody else. And the men that I met just wouldn't do that for me. I've always been there to hold other people, and they just were not interested in holding me. So I decided to cut it off. I had a really tough summer. I had a really tough year the following, and it was so backwards because I did have a lot of cool people by my side, and it sucks so bad because it personally feels like an insult to myself to be so depressed over somebody who doesn't even care about me while I have really cool people by my side, because I want to bring my 100% all the time. And I feel like that's something I have been struggling with lately, is allowing myself to be human and not having to be 100% all the time. I even told a stranger yesterday in a store I was temporarily at, because I was in a really good mood, but after I ate, I had a humongous mood shift, and I was like dead quiet. And I told him, I said I had a mood shift, and he was like, positive? And I'm like, when I say mood shift, it is not positive. I was in a really good mood. No, it was not positive. But I was so vulnerable with him, and I told him that. I said, I have like a really hard time allowing myself to be sad and for that to be okay. When I feel sad, I feel like there's something wrong with me, and there's nothing wrong with me for having the natural human range of emotions. And I told him, I said, it is tough, when you're growing up and when all you're taught is performance, like no crying, no anger, and other things like too much happiness, which was more allowed than the others. So that's probably where I got that should be like the standard for myself. Because if I wasn't smiling, then like I'm angry at someone and in the house, and anger is bad, crying is bad. And I told them that. I said, it's exhausting having this like mindset that you were literally taught to be palatable all the time and to be for consumption and to put others' needs before yours. And I don't think I gave myself enough grace, but I can still understand, it does feel hard. It feels so confusing. I know that nobody can fix you, but I do, want to bring my 100% self to people. And maybe part of bringing that 100% self is also being sad when you can't help it, because I was so vulnerable with that person yesterday. I was vulnerable with so many people in that store. I was like randomly lore dropping to these strangers. I was like, yeah, people have traumatized me with using my body. Yeah, somebody wanted to sell my body to strangers, and it was really fun. I don't want to say it was fun because I was really, having a tough time when the mood shifted, but it was really cool to kind of be that vulnerable with people that I had just met. I feel like I've grown a lot as a person. I'm not sure that's something that I would have done too much in the past. I think I would have just been sad and been quiet about it, because I always think there's something wrong with me for being sad, like no thoughts, no thinking, just lobotomy. So I spent most of 2020 in a depression, all while still going out and doing things. And, during post-breakup in 2020, I thought he was going to come back. I did the same thing with Chase. After he stopped talking to me, I thought that he was just going to come back, correct? And it never happened. I literally spent months communicating with lights flickering. I'm like, oh, if this light flickers 2 times, then he's gonna come back. And with Chase, obviously, I think like 3 or 4 months in, I realized how fucked up his treatment was of me that I stopped believing in it or even wanting him to come back. And, you know, the same thing happened with Brantley. I thought that he was going to come back. And in a sense, he did. He and his sister, like, or maybe it was just him, like, liked one of my photos on Instagram, like, months later. I think it was September. And I said, fuck no. If you're going to come back, I need it to be a novel message. I need it to be an explanation, because I will listen. I'm not the type of person to just write somebody off. And it was just a like. So I said, you know what? Fuck you. I am not worth just a like. So I blocked him and I said, I'm done. And I was angry. I was really angry. I spent all of 2021 really angry. But I was also hanging out with my friend and her mom. So I had a blast being angry. I did at some point that jacket that Brantley lent me, whatever. I was trying to sell it on Depop and no one would pick it up or buy it. So at one point I was with my friends. We went out that night and I was so mad because it was just rotting in the corner of my room. I didn't want anything to do with it. So we went out and we were just driving, you know, fucking around. And I just threw it out the window. I said, fuck it. This is somebody else's problem now. And that is some perfect sacred rage right there. Because it was a little cathartic. I'll never forget having the window down and just slinging it out. Could I have donated it? Probably. Did it run through my mind at the time? Absolutely not. And it was cathartic. By the end of 2021, I felt so much better. Because I spent all of it being angry, which is valid. You know, a lot had just happened. And by the end of 2021, it was like something lifted. And I felt so good. I felt so ready to move on. Like, finally, I got this out of my system. And I'm ready to, like, take on the world. But I wasn't ready to take on the world. I was still really, really depressed, you know? Like, why can't somebody meet me where I am at? I know that I'm good enough, especially now, but a lot of thoughts that ran through my mind at the time was, I'm not good enough. Why can't I be good enough, you know? Which is so confusing because I know I'm good enough. It just sounds like other people are saying I'm not good enough, which feels like the biggest insult. And it's so confusing. And all during 2021, I didn't really talk to anybody with the intention of being in a relationship. When I said I was going to wait until I'm 29 or it won't be until I'm 29, that was not a lie. That was like me putting my foot down and being so fed up with it. Because I don't deserve that. I don't deserve somebody to talk in codes. I don't deserve somebody who barely acknowledges my human. I don't deserve somebody who only sees me as a body or a product to be owned, as a picture where they're not looking at the whole painting. They just want to see the pretty parts. So all the way from 2021 up to 2023, I was on Grindr, and I want to say Tinder because I was done with dating, and that's where people typically go to date, and obviously that wasn't really working out for me. But I wasn't on Grindr to fuck people. I was mainly looking for friends. I thought it was the easiest, most connected way to get in touch with other gay people in my area. You know, there was this dude who wanted to meet, like, so adamantly. He was so dead set on us meeting, and I kept on being like, no. No. And he was like, do you even fuck people on this app? And I'm like, no, I don't want to do that. Like, I have probably slept with like 3 people in my whole life. I am so selective with who I allow to do that. So I spent the whole time on there just kind of looking for friends, and it did feel really lonely because it is, like, let's be honest, it's a gay sex app. People were not hitting me up to be like a girl's girl. They were not hitting me up to just talk to me about fun, silly things. So I spent a lot of time looking for connection in the wrong places. And I let that hurt from Chase and Brantley kind of simmer in me all the way up until 2023. And at this point, we're going to put Brantley in the neutral ghost tier. It wasn't a mind fuck, but it was insulting enough because he did kind of ghost me in a sense. And looking back in hindsight, he was the least worst out of all of them, but still enough to be annoying. Obviously, it was enough for me to cut off love for 8 years. I just thought at this point it wasn't possible. Now, I had gotten into human design just a little bit, just dipping my toes in the spring of 2022. I got into astrology in 2019 from Dr. Pharmacist Jade. I did not trust any other astrologer on Twitter because they're all talking about stupid bullshit. Performative spiritualism. They're talking about soulmates. They're talking about this sign is evil and that sign is evil. And they're just gaslighting you. And I'm like, fuck you. This is nonsense. But Jade, she was talking about the science. And that's what I wanted to know because it had always been interesting to me. And I wanted to get my information from somebody who actually knows what they're talking about. From somebody who isn't interested in the fucking pop culture, I don't actually know what I'm talking about nonsense. So I think it might have been late 2021 or maybe early 2022, she started talking about human design. And I, was still riding the astrology wave and I decided to kind of give it a try. I did listen to what she said. And this was at the point that my cat got sick and I was so depressed over it. I had just left my job because all they did was keep me at the register all the time. And that's not what I wanted to do. It was exhausting. I came in at 10 a.m., would work 8 hours, and they would just keep me on the register. They really liked what I would do because I could sell those credit cards. But I wanted to be folding. That's where my heart was at. I fold and my mind goes somewhere else. It feels so zen. And when I was on the register, I kept getting people who would hand me these pamphlets. Almost every single day, someone was like, have you been to church? Have you talked to God? Can we pray for you? It's so degrading. It made me feel insane that was my every single day. I hit a breaking point. I woke up one morning at 7 a.m. I got so drunk and I was supposed to work that day and I was like, I can't do it. So I went downstairs. We had family over and I begged my dad. I said, please text these people for me and tell them that I can't work here anymore because I don't want to do it. And then my cat got sick and my parents were like, you need to pay for him, his vet visits. So I got even more drunk. I had spent some time not being drunk because I knew it was already a dangerous path for me. I know that in the past I have gotten, wake up, get drunk, go to bed, wake up again. 2 hours later, get drunk. That was all I would do. So I knew it was dangerous for me to do that, but I had nothing else. I was literally self-medicating and I had no medicine. So my cat was dying. I had no way to afford to pay for his doctor visits. And I just felt like I was crumbling. I felt like I had nothing. I felt alone, which wasn't true, but it was a lot of weight on one person. So I was trying to kill myself, literally. And as a result of that, there were some events that transpired and I wanted to get help. I said, this is my opportunity. I can finally go to a facility and get help. And I was so afraid. I was terrified. You know, this was something that I wouldn't do because I knew that I would have to be in a house full of men. And I haven't had a normal, healthy relationship, like friendship with a man since I was in middle school. All I have known since then is literally bullying and abuse. But I remember what Jade said about listening to that yes, even if it's scary. And I said, you know what? Fuck it. I'm gonna do it. I felt the yes in me. I was scared. I was really scared, but I felt excited at the same time. Like something good could come from it. That fear is not always a bad thing. It does not always indicate a bad thing. Sometimes it's good to do something out of your comfort zone. So I decided to do it anyways because I knew that only good could come from it because I didn't want to be drinking every day. It was exhausting. I was tired. I literally would look up at the sky from my window and cry and beg for more. So I did it, and it ended up being one of the best decisions that I could have ever made. I have not been an alcoholic since then. I was able to be put on medicine, and I also got to heal my relationship with men. It was so healing to be in a household full of straight men who did not view you as a body, but also men who treated me like one of their own, like just a friend. It was so cathartic to have people just talk to me and be interested in who I am instead of something that they can pursue or own. I wanted to continue looking for that yes when I got home in a job, but outside pressures and a bill had me succumb to the job where I was on the register all the time. But when I went back, I asserted my dominance. I was like, I don't want to do that. Can I do something else? And so they let me do stock, which was really fun. But I felt miserable like all the time being there. I worked with a twink who I felt very insecure around. He was always talking about all these other dudes, and I kind of liked him. He was fun. So it would hurt my feelings, you know, kind of actively, but in that's my like own issue way. I didn't hold that against him, but it made it really hard to go to work. I would not show up sometimes. I no-showed so many times. Most places, and I'm pretty sure even that place had like a 3-strike rule. They didn't care. I no-showed so often. It was terrible for my bank account. I was working like 8 hours a week. It was not enough. And that was my life for, you know, October all the way until July, because in July, Jade had posted a audio on Twitter, you know, going more in depth with human design. And I said, okay, I'm ready. I'm ready to dip my toes. And it was for manifesting generators. I'm a manifesting generator. And she spoke on the sacral, listening to your oohs and your icks, and how you should literally reach for the stars and understand that what you know you are deserving of is your magic. That's your power right there. That is your manifesting tool. Knowing that you deserve better. Knowing that you can reach for the stars. And you can get what you want. And it was in that moment of July 2023 that I decided to open my heart back up, because I do deserve all of the things that I have asked for. Reciprocation. I want somebody who has shared interests. I'm tired of meeting people and having to be the only one that likes fucking Super Mario. I don't want to have to be like, look, it's Super Mario, and they just look the other way. You know, I'm bored. I want something of substance. So I decided to open my heart back up, and I felt so excited. I felt ready to take on the world. I finally jumped ship off of that job that was bringing me down so bad, because that job was not a yes job. I was losing money more than I was making money. And the twink ended up leaving because I did like him, but he ended up growing on me a lot more and made work more enjoyable. Like right as I started to really like him, he left, and I said, okay, it's my turn now, because this isn't my yes job. If I couldn't come to work before, if it was already really hard for me to come to work, I definitely don't want to come in anymore. So I left them the sweetest note being like, I hope you guys find everything you want. I drew a cat on the little note. I used Hello Kitty notebook paper. It was a little goated. And I left at the end of my shift. I just left it on the cash register and I peaced out. And I had never felt so much hope and excitement in the world. And it was towards the end of July, you know, when I started opening my heart up, knowing that I do deserve everything I want. If I know I deserve... Now, nothing is perfect. That was one thing she said, and I do know that. But if you can get about like 80% or more perfect, then like you're good, you know? Like that is a yes. So to me, I know that I deserve the perfect relationship in my mind. If I'm deserving of it, then it's already mine. So I had nothing but hope and excitement in my heart going forward. This felt like a huge yes on its own. And it was crazy because not even that much later, at the end of the month, I had 2 people message me on Grindr who were like friends. There was one person who seemed pretty cool, and then there was somebody else. He was not like anybody else that I have ever spoken to. He was very soft, and he ended up talking to me about Pikmin and Mario Kart. And I told my friend's mom, I said, I think I'm gonna make a really good friend here. I really like this person. I really like the vibe he's giving me. And friendship is of the utmost priority. I don't care about a relationship right now. I just want something really nice. And he seemed to offer that. I really liked this dude. And I'd be lying if I said I still didn't. We'll call him Jeremiah. So I feel like I was still healing a lot of insecurities about myself at this point in my life. You know, the high kind of ran out of me leaving my job. I thought I would find a job immediately, and it was really hard to find that yes job. It literally took me 9 months to find my yes job. So we were speaking, you know, throughout the fall. He said we should play Mario Kart sometime, and I don't think I ever took him up on the offer. He asked if I got Pikmin 4, and I didn't have the money to pay for it. So I feel like I didn't have anything to offer. I felt like it, and I feel like that played a part in how I approached it. And I also didn't have a job, so I do remember being vulnerable with him. And I feel like I got a typical, like, but you're a Sagittarius response. And it kind of hurt my feelings. And I feel like most days, like at night, it ended up with, okay, well, let's dig in our butts and record it on camera. And it didn't feel 100% there. But I also didn't feel 100% there. So I ended up stepping back. I wanted to take my time with this because I did really like him. I felt, you know, I wouldn't say that to my friend's mom if I didn't want to hold it properly. So I decided to step back, and my responses became a little bit slower. And it wasn't until Christmas my family bought me games for my gifts, and they were all games that I had missed out on getting, like Pikmin 4, Pikmin 1 and 2, Super Mario Bros. Wonder, Super Mario RPG, you know, all like 2023 was full of bangers. And I told Jeremiah, I was so excited. I was like, okay, now we can talk, you know? Something in my brain telling me I wasn't good enough to begin with. And I wanted, you know, I told him, I was like, I got Pikmin 4. And I wanted to talk to him so much. Like, I was waiting. I wanted to talk to him the whole entire time. I just thought I wasn't good enough. Like, my presence wasn't good enough to begin with. And I was really excited to talk to him about the water wraith the most, because that scared the shit out of me. And I'd never seen that before. I didn't get to play Pikmin 1 and 2 growing up. I always had a deep fascination with them. You know, I saw Olimar in the Pikmin in Super Smash Bros. Melee, and I always wanted to play that game. We never got it on the GameCube, but I like would watch videos and I just wanted to know more about it. So I was really excited to talk to somebody about this, and he was just like, that's cool. And then he started to not respond, and it hurt my feelings really bad. So I decided to unfriend him. It hurt my feelings. I didn't want to, but in my mind I was like, okay, well, if he comes back, and if he comes back correct, then that's how I'll know that it's meant to be. So I kind of parted ways with him mentally for the time being, and he ended up reaching back out to me on a gay app in January, but it was just a tap. And I'm not worth that, you know? I'm worth so much more than just a tap. You can't even be like, hello, what happened? You know, that was like what was running through my mind. And so I didn't respond to it. I said, you have to talk to me. I don't want to be nothing. And he had reached out to me. When he reached out to me in January, that was unironically, I don't know, at a point when I was just getting over it, because I was really sad, you know. I told my friend's mom, I really like this dude. I think he could be a really good friend. I have such a good feeling about him. So I had to get over it again. But then I ended up matching with somebody on Tinder, because I said, this is no reason to just give up on love. You know, I had that feeling for a reason back in July, and somebody matched with me who was really cool. He wanted nothing to do with sex. He was the perfect picture of a white picket fence house dream. And I really liked him. I did really like him. And we talked for about a month or two, and then he kind of stopped responding. So I kind of had to mentally part ways with it. I was really brokenhearted and a little upset. I was like, why did you just stop talking to me? And then I think it was in April that he actually went out of his way. He found my Facebook and he messaged me on there, which I've never had anybody do before. Nobody has ever gone out of their way to find me and message me, let alone with a whole novel. He gave me the whole explanation. That was so goated of you. Wherever you are out there, just know you are one of a kind. And I said, you know what? I am not going to let, because he did have like an explanation. He was like, I just really wanted to meet you, and I felt like it wasn't going to happen, like you weren't really that interested. And I'm like, no, I just like to take my time. And we ended up talking again, because I wasn't gonna let my irritation over what was going on control something that could be so possibly nice, because he was really the closest thing to what I had been asking for a very long time. And maybe it was like a week or two into talking to him that I realized that it wasn't like a match in a sense, because he felt very relationship oriented. And I'm not going to blame anybody for that, because I have definitely been in those shoes. But I want the friendship to be a priority. I care more about how the friendship can grow. I want to talk to somebody about Nintendo. And he was just more like, you're cute, you know, and all that stuff. And it just wasn't hitting with me. So I decided to let him go. But obviously I love this person so much that I couldn't just ghost him. So I wrote him the largest novel ever. I'm like, I'm so sorry, you know, obviously. And I want you to know that, like, you are so worth, like, all the love that you know that you deserve. And I don't want anyone to ever beat you up for it. I want you to know how much you are worth, and that anybody would be so lucky to be with a guy like you. I want you to keep searching, and I want you to know that it's out there. There is somebody out there. Because it wasn't right, and it wouldn't have been right for me to let it continue knowing that I wasn't 100% in it. And that was something about 2020 Brantley that kind of pissed me off, because I was the one who had to initiate the breakup, because he would have just let me sit there and rot because it was convenient for him. I'm not gonna let that happen to somebody else, not on my watch. So I sent him a humongous novel. I explained it all, and I blocked him. I didn't block him out of hatred or anything. I blocked him because I love him, and I want him to understand that I care. There is no further explaining what I've already written a novel about, if that makes sense. I don't know if that was wrong, but he has tried to reach out to me. Like, he's tried to add me on Snapchat, and I've just had to pretend it doesn't exist because I see something in him, and I'm not trying to get in the way. And I don't want to hurt his feelings any more than I may have already done, because if he asks for any more explanation, I'm not going to know what to tell him, because I already told him, you know? And it also depends on the person's preferences. Some people may be so relationship coded that that's not something that I want to be like, well, you're too relationship coded, because there's nothing wrong with that. But I am more friendship coded. I am more, let's be friends for 10 years. I don't care if it takes 10 years and then we kiss 10 years into that. I want 10 years of friendship, 10 years of like, whatever that is, like boyfriend, girlfriend. And then 15 years later, let's get married. Maybe, if I agree. Chances are I'll probably agree though. Like, that long, 20 years, let's hope. I don't know. You know, I'm looking for very long term. I'm not trying to rush anything. And that's just how I'm coded. So I don't want to explain that to him. If he ever sees these videos one day, maybe I'll answer any questions that he ever had. But after this happened, it hit me so deeply that Jeremiah is what I was looking for. Absolutely everything. Friendship coded. I'm attracted to who he is as a person. I'm attracted to his character. I'm attracted to the way he talks. I'm attracted to the way that he has talked to me when we were talking like friends. And I would see him in everything. I would play Pikmin, and I'm like, I wish he was here right now to see that, because it was so funny. And I would just laugh. I would laugh enjoying it myself, but I wanted him to be there with me. I would see him in literally everything. I would see him in the grass when I'd go outside. I'd see him in the sunset. I would see him in my cats. I've never seen another person like that in my lifetime in that sense. And it wasn't until June that, you know, because I was going to keep waiting, but it wasn't until June that I saw somebody tweet about the Pulse shooting in 2017, I think it was. And I started to spiral. I said, holy fuck, no. this person that I feel so deeply about, that I care so deeply about, that I would protect with everything that I have in me. I may be a little small, but my anger is sacred. It is sacred rage. I couldn't just, it made me sick knowing that he was out there and that anything could happen to him and I would not be there to stop it. Like, if someone's going to hate crime you, I'm literally going to beat the fuck out of this person, you know? And if someone ever did hate crime you, I would be so angry because I couldn't have been there to stop it. And I know that's impossible, and I know that's like, in a sense, for everybody, because if I could, I would be there to protect every single one of you. I have survivor's remorse. I am obsessed. It makes me so angry. I don't like it when anything bad ever happens to anybody. And it freaked me out because these are people in the Pulse shooting that were just living their lives. They were just alive. These are people who are already oppressed and who have already been through so much troubles in their life. And these people, these sick, disgusting people came and they literally ended the lives of people who already have had it so hard. Like, gay people do not, it's not a walk in the park, you know. There is discrimination within the gay community. It is so isolating and lonely. And I thought to myself, if I love this person so much, because these were already signs of love to me, you know, he was exactly everything I was looking for, that I didn't at least want to try to reach out to him and be like, hey, can we just be friends? I want to talk to you. I want to know about your day. I want you to talk to me about stupid things you've done, stupid things you've done in video games. I want to hear all about it. I want to hear about what makes you happy. I want to hear about what makes you mad. I want to hear about what makes you sad. What's hurting your heart? And I couldn't not try. And it was in that moment, you know, when I was in the closet in middle school, I was on black and white Tumblr. I felt very alone, and I grew up in a very religious household. So a lot of the nights that I would go to bed, I would literally sob and like cry to God because I had that coded in me, being like, please don't make me like this. I don't want to go to hell, you know. But I would get on Tumblr and on this black and white blog, and I would see like this drawing of, and it ended up being my favorite drawing. Like, I would go back to look at it all the time when I was younger. It was a gay couple, and it was like in a cartoon style, and each photo was a different season. But in each season, they got older and they grew up together, and they're just like walking through the woods. And that's when I saw that as a child, I was like, that's what I want. They're so cute and I want to be them. And it hit me. I said, Jeremiah is literally this photo. He is everything that I could have ever asked for. I could paint it all. I could make sense of every moment in my life, because he didn't live here. He lived about 2 hours away. So I could paint it all. I could paint pictures of when I was younger and when I would listen to songs and I could be like, oh my God, there's Jeremiah. I could paint when I would go to vacation in that place and I would be so lonely and in this car with people that I didn't feel safe around, and I would be looking up at the sky, listening to either Lana Del Rey or more specifically Britney Spears' Alien, you know. And the stars in the sky look like home, take me home. And the light in your eyes lets me know that I'm not alone. Not alone, not alone, not alone. And it feels so crazy because that's when I was playing my 3DS. I was playing Mario Kart on my 3DS, and we both shared a love for the 3DS, and I can just paint moments in time. I'm like, oh my God, we were literally in the same vicinity, and I didn't even know it at the time. And it feels like I can make sense of everything throughout time. It's not that life didn't have a meaning. It's not that I was never important, but it feels like an added, like, oh my God, this picture of a painting, it was there, but there's so much more to it now. I didn't even know it was there, type of deal, but it was there all along. And that's what it felt like. So I had to reach out to him. He felt like somebody I had known my whole entire life without having even known, like something that I had always been asking for, even if I didn't know it. Somebody that I just wanted to be friends with. And I couldn't find him on Snapchat because he did not use like first and last name. He used something very unique, and I thought that I could never speak to him ever again. I thought I completely screwed it up, and I was sobbing. I sobbed for days and days and days because I didn't know if he was okay. I didn't know if he was safe. I didn't know if he was alive. So I went to Snapchat and I requested an archive of everybody that I had messaged in a certain time period, being like July to November of 2023. And I found him and I said, holy fuck, well, I gotta make this count, because if I have felt all these feelings, I can't not try. I can't give it my like half-ass attempt. So I found him, I added him, he added me back almost instantaneously. He hit me with a hi, and I sent him a novel of everything, a lot of what I just told you guys, but also adding in, because it was true. I said, I see you as an old man. I see you 20 years from now. I see you as a child. I see you as you are. You are the person that makes me wonder if we had been friends earlier in life, if we had grown up near each other, I wonder if things would have felt less lonely. And he hit me, I think he said, this is a lot. And then he said, do you want to fuck? And after experiencing all those feelings and those realizations that I had, that could have possibly been the most insulting thing to say. And it was terrible. I had already been questioning my worth anyways, because I already had so many wrong experiences with dudes. This felt like the first real thing ever. Dudes who just wanted to use me for my body. And when nobody has the talk with you, when you're younger and you have to learn from kids at school what masturbation is, and you have to do the research on your own, and you think that porn is a real life depiction of love, you start to believe it after somebody who you've seen so much in already, you have so much love for, kind of minimizes you to nothing other than a body. It makes you really wonder if that is all that you're worth. I ended up sending him another message, another long message. I was like, I feel like you don't like me. I feel like I really fucked this up. And he unfriended me. And I immediately added him back. And I said, I'm sorry. I will literally never speak to you again. And when I say that, I mean that, because I don't like to beg. I don't like to push people to do something they don't want to do. I sent him a crying emoji and a heartbreak emoji, but that heartbreak emoji couldn't even express the hurt I was feeling and still feel. And I unfriended him. And I spiraled. I couldn't do anything without sobbing. I couldn't eat my favorite meals without crying. I would go and get myself chicken hibachi. I thought maybe it would make me feel better. I would sob. I couldn't finish it. My tears would be falling into the food. I would play Project Diva and listen to Reverse Rainbow, which is a song that I played on the 3DS version of Hatsune Miku, Project Diva, whatever the fuck it's called, Project Mirai. I would play that song when we had just met, and I really loved it. I really had a deep love for it. I didn't know why at the time, why I felt so connected to it. And I would play it, the custom mod, on Project Diva, and I would sob the whole time. I couldn't make out the shapes because I was crying so bad. My eyes were so blurry. I couldn't do anything. I went to work and I told my manager, who felt like a friend at the time, and I don't know how true that was, but I will still always have this like deep respect for her, whether it makes sense or not. I remember telling her, because I was heartbroken, you know, I said, I feel like I literally had a limb ripped away from me, and I couldn't finish the sentence without tearing up and starting to cry. I literally started to cry in front of her on the sales floor, and I ran back to the bathroom and I sat on the ground and I sobbed. It was like no other. This is the top tier. This is a soul splitting tier. It really destroyed me. I was in so much pain. I couldn't do it. I felt like every day I would wake up and I'd cry, and I would cry, and I would cry. And I felt like there was something wrong with me for even wanting to have that. Just a friendship. I wasn't even trying to ask for much, you know? I really just wanted a friend at the end of the day. And he couldn't even meet me there. And I blamed myself for it.
Babe, stop. Babe, stop. Gosh, you guys see why I love him? He's so funny.
I don't think I can do it. Guys,
No. Please, no.
tell me what you see.
I'd like to wake up now.
remember one day feeling so fed up with it that if I didn't go to a hospital, I was literally going to down a bottle of alcohol and some pills because I didn't want to do it anymore. I felt like what I met was it. I felt like he was it. He was real. I felt like he was a friend I wanted to be friends with forever. And if I couldn't have that, then I didn't want to be alive. You know, it was either kill myself or sell my body to that man, because what I've been told is that my body is the only good thing about me, and I didn't want to do that. So I begged my brother. I said, please take me to the hospital. Well, yes. And I got there, and I was in a room full of sick people in the ER. I just wondered to myself, you know, all these people are like really sick, and I'm here over a boy. It wasn't until I got into the room, I spent maybe an hour or two in there. They fed me. They turned SpongeBob on the TV. I got to eat. I got to rest. And I got to watch SpongeBob, and I got to laugh. And I felt so crazy just from being in there 2 hours already of boredom that I started singing all of Hot Dog Cooker by Aisha Erotica in there, who in the past has felt like a reason to live, especially when she made her comeback, because I thought she was never going to come back. And every song she drops is a banger. I said, you know what? I can do this. I don't want to be in here. There are these people who are actually sick, and I don't want to kill myself over a dude. So I asked to leave. Also, because I really wanted to hit my vape. And I had to convince them. I felt like that dude knew I was bullshitting, but it is so hard to believe that somebody can have a perspective shift within like an hour or two, you know?
Well, sort of, kind of.
So I got out and I talked to people and I kind of told them what happened, even my parents, and they said, Riley, he did not like you. I'm like, okay, you're right. Nobody who likes you responds that way. I think when the dude previously, White Picket Fence House Dream, messaged me and I responded the way I did with like dropping my own problems towards it and giving it the benefit of the doubt, I was hoping for that out of Jeremiah. I thought that maybe he could look past whatever had happened. Maybe something was going on in his life. Maybe he was holding it against me. I don't know. And I was hopeful that he would give me the same response that I gave this other dude who reached out to me. And I think it hit me, you know, like that picture of the girl breaking free from the chains, that there was nothing wrong with me for wanting to have that. And there isn't anything wrong with that at all. I think, if anything, that's so sacredly human and also like the cutest thing on earth. Like, I love love. I love seeing people in love. I love seeing people have something so bright and shiny and sparkly. I think it's beautiful. So something shifted, you know, and I really started to change and believe in myself and not beat myself up for it. But the hurt still kind of lingered, even if I didn't want it to, because it came back around the end of September. And this is where we start to enter mirror moment La La Land, which I'm going to do a whole entire video on the mirror and La La Land. So I'm not going to go into detail today. We're going to keep a long story short. I thought he was going to come back. I thought he was just going to show up at my doorstep and be like, I'm sorry. You didn't deserve that. And you don't need to go sell yourself to some man who does not respect you, who wants nothing but the worst for you. And obviously, he did not come back. So I had to go through a breakup, in my head at least, again. And here we are today. And I have been going through the stages of grief. And here is Donkey Kong to remind you what they are, just in case you forgot. And I have also been documenting those stages of grief. My dearest friend of 13 years, she also went through kind of a breakup with a dude all the way from Canada. And she would always text me. She'd be like, I'm over it. I'm not over it. I'm over it. At college, not this dude. And I wanted to document it. I went into my notepad and I would write down the timestamp, the day that it happened, and I'd be like, she's not over it. She is over it. She's over college, not this dude. And I decided to kind of go back to that with myself and document every time I'm over it or not over it, you know, the stages of grief, not only as a callback to us, because it does make things feel less alone to know that I'm not the only one going through this out here, but also as sacred documentation. It's like a little journal. Every time I make an entry, I'm like, I'm over it. And then 5 minutes later, I'm not over it. It's kind of funny. At least I get to laugh at the range of how this transpires. So we're gonna go through this. Riley is over it. Riley gets struck with the realization that none of it was ever real, even what he thought they would share together. The idea of being over it fluctuates momentarily. Against his will, Riley might not be over it. Riley is toying with the idea that he is over it. Riley jolts at the imaginary similarities he and Jeremiah share, including the existence of existing at the same time. It stings. Riley is not over it. Riley consults Kylie Minogue for a healing session. Riley accepts that this is just the process and there's no forcing the hurt away. Riley is not over it. Riley is over it. Riley realized how insulting it is to have gotten that response, considering his borderline unreachable standards. And just from a human-to-human perspective, Riley misses real companionship. The real kind where it's just friendship and vibes before anything happened. Riley dips his toes back into Memorial by Suzanne Sunfor, a sacred 10-minute song. Very, very sad. She will talk about how he took off her dress and never put it back on. Riley is not over it. Riley realizes once again that he will never ever see him again. That Jeremiah wants nothing to do with me and does not care whether Riley is dead or alive. Riley spits while laughing. Riley is not over it. Riley realizes that men love to play with fire until it gets too hot. The meow hurts this time, especially coming from an ethereal being with childlike wonder and electric eccentricity. Me. Riley is over it. In parentheses, Riley is not actually over it. Riley is getting sick thinking about it. Being over it might just be around the corner. Riley is over it. Not at Jeremiah, but this in-between era. Riley realizes how bad this man fumbled his luck. Who else tears up and spends $600 worth of Nintendo product at GameStop because they think their best friend is going to die to create an altar for the both of them? Riley chuckles at how embarrassing it must be to be him. The rage pulses in Riley's body from the disrespect he was presented with. Riley has been traumatized. Some things just cannot be unseen. Riley wonders if there are real friends out there, ones that won't commodify his body. Riley wonders if healing is possible. Knowing it's true, it's just a matter of when and how. Riley feels like everything has been altered. Whether or not he realizes it and that it takes time, it is for the better. Riley's tummy hurts so bad. He can't believe him and every younger version of himself had been disrespected this horribly. Riley is over it. In parentheses, this is probably momentarily. Thinking about Jeremiah makes Riley want to vomit. Riley is sick of thinking about somebody who could not meet him where he's at. Riley laughs and questions what is he supposed to do about that. Riley decides to think about something else for his mental sanity. Riley is not over it at not being held. Not Jeremiah. Riley's heart aches from the resistance not to meet him where he's at, but instead kick him into the dirt while he's already in the dirt. Riley is not over it. Riley comes to the realization that Jeremiah has traumatized him. Riley wonders if Jeremiah's response was mean, but then remembered water is wet. Riley is not over it. Riley is not over it. Riley is not over it. Riley is over it. Riley feels the ache of the inability to go back into the past, into a different timeline where maybe him and Jeremiah grew up near each other and became friends as children. One where we could have been friends and maybe it would have been less lonely. Riley is once again crying to Chance by Angel Olsen, an appearance that hasn't been made since 2019. Riley sees into different timelines and sobs. Riley is not over it. Riley hopes one day Jeremiah sees in himself what Riley saw in him. Riley begins to accept that of which he cannot change. Riley is not over it. Riley is over it. Riley is not over it at not being met. Not Jeremiah. Riley sees Jeremiah in Riley's face, a cruel reminder of what never was and what will never be. Riley is not over it. Songs like Stay Away and Backseat by Charlie XCX take Riley to the past. If he saw multiple timelines, he can see this one too. How this would feel like listening to those songs would synchronize with now, even when Riley didn't completely experience them then. Riley is not over it. Riley dips his toes into delusion, derogatory. Once again, Riley is over it. Riley is not 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 over it. Riley pretends it does not exist, knowing it will return as soon as he wakes up later. Riley is not over it. Riley deserves reparations for all that he has been through. Riley is not over it. Riley is not over it. Riley is not over it. Riley painfully laughs at the delusions. Riley is over it. Riley reminisces on his 2019 heartbreak and trip to said vicinity of Jeremiah's whereabouts to cat sit. Deeply heartbroken and listening to Charlie by Charlie XCX because it had just released. Riley laughs about the string he found on the ground in October during peak La La Land. Riley is not over it. Riley is over it. Riley is not 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 over the delusions. Riley is not over it. Riley sees a man putting a necklace on his girlfriend and questions if Jeremiah would ever do that. Riley ponders Jeremiah's capabilities and wonders if being over it is imminent. Riley is not over it. Riley thinks about dipping his toes back into sacred delusion. Riley is not over the delusions. Riley delusionally laughs about his capabilities of letting the dream die. Riley is over the delusions. Riley dips his toes back into the Jeremiah delusions. Riley is over the delusions. Riley questions the Jeremiah extended universe. Riley is over the delusions. Riley wishes he was over it. Riley is dipping his toes back into the delusions. Riley is over the delusions. Riley actually wants to be over him and the delusions because it's not worth the spiral. Riley is not over it. Riley is over it. Riley is over it. Riley is not over it. Riley temporarily dips his toes into the delusions with caution. I think it's really hard when you see so much. Like I said, it's hard to unsee what you've already seen. It's really hard to disconnect from something like that and just be over it in an instant. And when I say Jeremiah Extended Universe, there was a voice in me during my peak La La Land. There was a point where I was in the peak of it all and I heard a voice in my head. You know, I was just in my room, minding my own business, and I heard a voice that said, "Your dad is going to come in here. Not right now, but later. When he does, don't respond, don't say anything, don't acknowledge him." And lo and behold, I was just like, okay, whatever, you know. And he did end up coming in like 20 minutes later, maybe. And I didn't do anything. Obviously, I was going to listen to the voice. And at the end of everything, you know, when I realized that Jeremiah wasn't coming, that voice in my head said, because I was ready to give it all up. I was ready to be like, okay, well, I guess I should go sell my body. That voice in my head was like, but you might see him again. And so when I finally decided that, when I came to the realization that I wanted to live a life and that I deserve better, when I realized that I don't want to do that, I don't deserve that, I wouldn't want that to happen to anybody. I don't think that's okay. I feel like that's complete disrespect to anybody alive. I wouldn't want it to happen to anybody else. Why would I want it to happen to myself? You know, I wanted to live. I have come across fucking doppelgangers everywhere. One of the first girls that I met after La La Land, her husband's name is Jeremiah. And, you know, I go to work somewhere new and, you know, they take me to the back. It was my first day and they're like, okay, this is the manager. His name is Jeremiah. And the dude that was in front of the actual Jeremiah looked just like Jeremiah. And I have seen people, countless people, over and over again that look just like him. And that does not help the delusions, you know? Because I am that kind of bitch that's like, if you come back with a whole novel, an explanation, with good intentions, and a real heart, then chances are I'll probably give you another chance. I don't believe in writing people off like that. And it really just depends, honestly, what you say too. Because that would be so telling of your character. You can't just hit me up at 3 a.m. with a WYD, you know? So it feels very counterproductive. That's why I say, like, I'm not over the delusions, or I'm over the delusions. And it's hard. It's really hard sometimes to make sense of things when you see so much. And then you have the Jeremiah Extended Universe doing backflips to make sure that I see him everywhere. I literally had a customer walk up to me at this new place that I work, and I disappeared. I went into La La Land. I said, oh. I was like, hi. It's like, how can I help you? You know, just giving him like a dreamy look. I was like, oh my God, it's you again. He had a girlfriend, and I'm like, don't worry, girl. I'm not actually talking to your man. I'm like in La La Land right now. I'm talking to Jeremiah in my head, and it just doesn't help at all. Because I don't know how to make sense of things sometimes. Sometimes it doesn't feel like it makes sense. And then I'm like, well, how did that voice know my dad was going to come into the room? So I don't know. And then I had a dream the other day that a packet of ketchup bursted on my neck, and I was crying and I was sobbing. I was freaking out because I thought something terrible had happened. It was blood, and it was just a packet of ketchup. And my friend's mom was like, it's okay. And she said, can you actually put a Band-Aid on my neck? And she had like blisters back there. And they handed me some Shadow the Hedgehog Band-Aids, and I put it on her, and I'm like, it's okay. You know, it's things like that that don't help. But I did wake up from a dream last night. I had a dream. One of them was me, Jeremiah, and these two girls I just met yesterday. We were having dinner, and these girls kept talking, but I wanted to listen to Jeremiah talk. And I'm like, just speak. And right as he was about to speak, I woke up. And then I had a dream following where I was on this foggy beach, and one of my older brother's childhood friends, he was mistaking me for my older brother, and I was like, no, that's not me. And I was crying, and I went to this house on this foggy beach, and I met Jeremiah's friends and family. I don't know if they were friends and family, you know, just random faces. It could have just been friends. It could have just been family. I don't know. And I checked my phone again, and there were no messages from him, and I'm sobbing. I was sobbing the whole entire dream. And Never Felt So Alone by Labyrinth and Billie Eilish were playing the entire dream. So I woke up with that song stuck in my head, and I went to go listen to it, you know. And it's just, you know, I thought you were my best friend. That song is so hauntingly beautiful, and it definitely haunted my dreams. So I would put him on the soul splitter tier. That was like nothing else I've ever experienced before. I thought everything else prior was the worst that it could get. I remember when I texted him, I said, do you even want to date me right now? And he was like, no. I thought that if this happens again, I might actually die. And I almost did. I literally almost killed myself. I almost sold my body. So yeah, I almost did die. It was soul splitting. And I did say I was gonna talk about, you know, family subjects that could contribute to this, but I did speak on it already with the porn mention. You know, I mentioned it to my parents the other day. We were out eating, and I was talking about going to see Katy Perry, and my mom was like, remember when we sat you down and had a conversation about you can't listen to that music when you were in 5th grade? And it triggered so many emotions, because I had actually been thinking about that earlier this year. I just called them out because I couldn't not, you know, I was so angry about it. I wanted to defend myself, and especially the realizations that I had. I was like, you should not have been talking to me about this stuff at such a young age. You should have let me not know what an anus is because of Kesha. You should have not let me know what a disco stick is because of Lady Gaga. You should have let me imagine that it was literally a pogo stick with a disco on top. You didn't have to paint a picture for me at such a young age, because nobody else in my class was ever talking about this stuff. And then when I needed it the most in middle school, when it becomes prominent, when it's a talking point to so many kids, when your body is actually going through the changes, you don't speak a word to it. I never got to talk, and I had to I literally walked up to a kid because they were making masturbation jokes, and I said, what does masturbation mean? And I had to do the research on my own. And that's how I really started to believe that this stuff is okay. And that's what I deserve, along with like life experiences of also being kicked down and being abused at and taken sexually advantage of at an age where I was way too young to be doing those things. I didn't realize that those men were predators until way, 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 way too much longer into my life. And maybe if somebody had educated me, I would have known better sooner, that that's not what real love looks like, that I don't have to give people my body in order to be held. During 2021, I was sleeping shirtless, and my cat, he would always curl up right here between my arm and my head, you know, my neck. He would lay here, and I don't think I realized at the time that this was trauma playing out, but I woke up and I felt him touching my skin. This was the love of my life, my baby, and I freaked the fuck out. I literally picked him up and I threw him off the bed, and I said, "Why the fuck are you touching me right now?" It wasn't until this year when I watched Moral Oral, when I saw the nurse who would be sucking the principal's dick every day at school, when I saw her go home to her household full of childlike things, and when she would talk to the stuffed animals, and when something fell off the table and she went to go pick it up and she knocked the table and milk fell on her, she thought that the teddy bear had done it to her, and she freaked out. She had a mental break. She said, "Why did you do that to me? I thought you're my friend." I had never seen something so clear in my life, because I never understood why I threw my cat off of me like that, because I do love him. He is the love of my life, you know? That's my baby. I used to pray for him that a cat would come into my life like that. It wasn't until then that I realized that I had been traumatized, like really bad, that there was a lot of valid sacred rage, especially with 2019 man, because all he did was toss me around like a salad, and I deserved so much more than that. And my cat ended up getting the response from that. Somebody so near and dear to me who never deserved that. And I think a lot of this today has really left a mark on me. Like, I will never be the same person. Absolutely everything triggers me. I cannot watch anything. I am like limited to like SpongeBob and the Amazing World of Gumball, because if I watch, and even then, like, I'm still triggered sometimes. Like, I know they're just cartoons and I know they're just like jokes, but sometimes it just, I get like a full body shock. I was with my brother and his friend, and his brother, like, I heard him like swallow a spit or something, and it triggered me so bad. I went immediately back to Chase, and like, I can remember like begging him to spit in my mouth, and I just felt so disgusted with myself in that moment that I heard my brother's friend like swallow his spit, because I shouldn't have been begging for somebody to spit in my mouth in order to be valued. And it makes me feel disgusting. And it just brings up all those questions, you know, when I get triggered in these moments, like, is pain and silence all I'm really worth, you know? And that's a good question that it's not a good question, actually. It's a terrible question. But it's a question that has come up over and over and over anytime anything like this happens, because it has always seemed to just end in pain and silence. At some point, you just start to believe it. Okay, so I just came across, I decided, because I found my journal, because I remembered, I was like, I think I have like all my friends from rehab's numbers in the back, which I do, And I was like, I should read this, you know? Like, go back through the memories of when I was in rehab. And it was a really fun read. It was very informative, getting to, like, look back and kind of compare my life now to then, and kind of see the issues that I had then, and, like, how I feel about these things now. And it's very interesting, you know, as it progresses, because, you know, we have everything from rehab, which is definitely very important, obviously. And then, oh wait, we get to, like, the human design part. So this is, like, June 24th, 2023. That is when I listened to Jade's audio file. That's when everything shifted. And then we jump to this, which I completely forgot I even wrote. This was the 18th of July, 2024. This is... And there are tears. There are clearly some tears on the page. You can see it's wrinkly. We have, where is it? We have the one that got away reference. This was in July, before even, like, October or September happened. Obviously, I wasn't, like, referencing it on purpose. But then we have a Lifetime reference. So, would we be surprised if this was I Could Foresee the 143 era? And then we have, you know, obviously some of my favorite lyrics, some more wrinkled pages from Tears. And then we have this that was written in rehab. We had to, like, exchange these with people, like, write something inspiring. And this is literally what Jade said in the human design audio file to Chase. This was, and it stuck with me. She, you know, what Buzz Lightyear says, reach for the stars. And this ended perfectly right here. What the fuck? I feel like I am crumbling. It feels like I can't do anything right, and sometimes I truly believe it. From failed relationships and failed jobs time and time again, then it starts to become easier to believe and more likely / susceptible to self-sabotage, which I do eventually regret. I wish I could have never hurt or left people. I wish I could have just believed what they tell me. Did they really like me, though, if my love didn't feel reciprocated? Did I dodge a bullet? Sometimes I wish I could just say hello and start all over from the beginning. But I can't, and I have to accept that. I've fucked up, and I'll never know truly. It feels like I was / am destined to be alone, because why are my parents my parents? I wish I knew how to trust people and communicate. I wish I wouldn't get mad so easily, as these are all undesirable qualities, matched with poor confidence, and you have a full-blown mistake. I truly did not mean to hurt you, Jeremiah. I imagine a life with you, and without you, it's too crushing. It feels so lonely in the gay community. Like I have to have the perfect body and not be feminine, but he didn't make me feel that way. And I truly don't think he understands the weight of his impact in my life. And I'd never want to get in the way of his happiness, so I guess I just have to let him go. Such a beautiful soul to me, and I ruined that. I literally want to vomit and end myself. I don't think I'll ever meet anybody like him again, and I can't stop crying because I don't even want to try. It makes me lose hope. I always wanted a gay friend who enjoys Nintendo, but I don't think I quite fit the bill, TBH. And I don't think I ever will for anybody. There is something inherently wrong with me, and I wish I would just die. I feel like I ruin everything I touch, and I just wanted to love everything. I'm not sure if he ever actually liked me, because where did that personal discouragement surrounding our relationship come from? I'm tired of not being good enough. I'm tired of not feeling good enough. I want to be valued, not an option. I'm tired of feeling like I'll never be good enough. And there's nothing about me that has value. I like me, so why don't others? I would literally die for you, and you don't even care if I was dead, which it's okay. There's nothing in the world that could make me hate you or wish on your downfall, and I think that makes me want to end my life so bad, because what's the point in living if I'm not living with you? You're everything I could ever dream of in a boy, and you probably always will be the one that got away. I look at you and I see a child. I see a teenager. I see an old man. And I see an adult. I see somebody who I would have wanted to be friends with as a child. I want to protect you and that child that lives inside you. But I don't think I'll ever have that honor, and I'll always regret it. It makes me wish we did know each other when we were kids. I would have loved to play Mario Kart with you. I don't think I am going to talk to anybody for a while, because nobody will ever be like you, Jeremiah. And if that's all the love I get in this lifetime, then so be it. It was enough to last a lifetime. For me. I love you forever, and I always will. It's just really hard to read that. You know, like there are tears on the page, and it wasn't like anything else. It was not like anything else, which was probably the worst part. Because I've just like felt like I've been so alone for all of my life. And I just read that and I get flashes back, you know. I'm like that child me who begged his parents to like drive so far away to get a copy of Sonic 2006 at GameStop, because it was hard to find. Like, does not deserve that, and did not deserve anything that has happened to him. And it's just awful, you know. I wish like people would just treat us with like the same amount of heart and kindness. That we're so eager to give away to other people. And it feels so unfair. And it feels so lonely. So, I hope this video has been informative. Here is the final tier list. And I hope maybe that my stories have shared some comfort with any of you. Maybe it has brought clarity to anything that has happened to you, or maybe that you're going through. And I want you to know that you're not alone, and that you deserve absolutely the best in this world. And you should keep reaching for it. You should reach for the stars, and you should keep reaching for what you know you deserve, because you are the GOAT, and nobody deserves to be treated like this. If it lives within you, then it definitely is out there. I love you guys so much. Thank you for tuning in. I will see you next time, and peace out.
Don't sell me no pipe dreams. I wanna live with you through everything. me no pipe dreams. I wanna live in a kaleidoscope. Don't sell me no pipe dreams. Wanna be the one to spin the